Well, it's the end of the week, so let's take a look at what's on our way for some coming attractions. So, a brief tidbit on the Superman film and a comparison between Man of Steel and, Superman, formerly Superman Legacy. So, once again, Daniel RPK. Scooper says the flick will not be like the DCEU. Well, kind of expected that. It will be the opposite of what Zack Snyder did with Man of Steel 11 years ago. Well, you mean it won't be as desaturated? Well, McClellan gives the little summary. Snyder's movie came under criticism for the violent scenes, as well as Superman killing Zod. McClellan adds, really hated Pa Kent, and I agree with that. I think that's one of the big flaws in that movie. The premise of Man of Steel is Superman in the real world, as much as possible as you can. This was coming off of the Nolan treatment to Batman in the Dark Knight trilogy, and the attempt was to do something similar with Superman. It's a long time ago now, but that's what the initial move was. And, of course, he was a freshman superhero. He had never done this sort of thing before, and he's faced with an invasion from his own people, led by General Zod, and, of course, Metropolis gets destroyed. And he, at the end, feels his only solution was to kill Zod to stop him from killing more innocent people. And, of course, given time, you could have seen a narrative flow in future films where Superman regretted having had to do this and dedicates his life to avoid that sort of thing in the future and all of that. Of course, you can't always depend on future films to fix what other people might not have liked in another film or something of that nature, but narratively speaking, that was the sound approach to it. It's just the Pa Kent scene I don't believe. I don't believe Clark would just stand there and allow that to happen. He would have leaped to his father, saved him from the tornado in the blink of an eye before he even realized what he had done. So, he adds here Snyder got to finish his DCEU with Snyder Cut, Justice League Cut. No, he got to finish his Justice League. There were supposed to be two more and all that sort of thing. They didn't get to finish it, but he did get to finish his version of Justice League. So anyway, the Scooper says he's heard Gunn's Superman movie is fantastic, which means nothing. We always hear this about films. Batman versus Superman got a standing ovation. And didn't really get one. And I know the full cut is much better than the theatrical cut. And it's true, it's still a flawed film. I enjoy a good bit of it. I'm not as harsh to it as others are who just flat out hate it, but I can't, in all honesty, say it doesn't have its flaws. So, it says the movie's fantastic and it's a complete shift to hardcore sci-fi and fantasy. The exact opposite of Man of Steel. Well, there's a lot of science fiction in Man of Steel. Fantasy? Well, I guess not. There was never any indication of magic or any of that sort of thing. I suppose it would have come later. I mean, it's supposed to be connected to Suicide Squad, and there you had Enchantress, who's basically an ancient goddess running around doing magic. So, you know. But anyway, no. Man of Steel was basically a science fiction film. You know, the last survivor of a dead alien civilization. Turns out he wasn't exactly the only survivor, but that's the sci-fi concept of Superman. So this sounds like it's much ado about nothing. It's going to be a James Gunn film. It will not be similar in tone to Snyder, even though they did collaborate on Dawn of the Dead many moons ago. And that sort of thing. But, it's to be expected. So, a brighter, probably a bit more humor in it, and that sort of thing. But I don't expect it to resemble Man of Steel in any way, and that there'll be more fantastical elements in it, I'm guessing is what they're going with as far as being the opposite of Man of Steel. not a whole lot of opposite, just a break away from trying to keep it as grounded and real as possible. The approach that they initially had with Man of Steel. So there you go. I guess that's Corn Sweat working out. Yeah, he worked out and everything, but the suit is so baggy. It doesn't really. I don't. Well, okay. He's like, damn it, I worked hard for nothing. So I don't know. I mean, Cavill, he worked out too, and well, he can show it. So it's like, hey, why bother, So anyway, and then he makes mention that apparently, rumor has it, Snyder can come back to do a DC film should he want to, and he has said he'd like to do an adaptation of The Dark Knight Returns, which is pretty much, I think, is what they should have just flat out did with Batman versus Superman, and just say all the other DCEU movies take place in the past from that movie. But anyway, Superman on the way, and saying it's fantastic. Well, let's hope so. Elsewhere in the DCU, already Josh Brolin was mentioned to be the top choice for the role of Hal Jordan for the Lantern series, which besides Superman is the only other entity that James Gunn announced early last year of what projects they were working on, and this was the one I found the most interesting, again, beyond Superman. And since then, well, the writing team he's assembled, I'm very nervous about. With the exception of Mundy, I believe his name was. He was on the team for True Detective, which is basically the template they're using for this series. But in the meantime, Josh Brolin was announced as the top contender for the role should he want it. Now rumor comes, if he is not interested in it, then Matthew McConaughey and Ewan McGregor are also in the running. And I'm guessing the way it's sit here that Ewan McGregor is third in line should McConaughey pass on it. So they're all roughly within the same age range. They're all in their, sort of, well, I guess Ewan is kind of early 50s maybe, but well, so would McConaughey. Okay, mid 50s, we'll say, to be kind. And so that's in keeping with the idea that I think Hal Jordan is not long for this DCU. I suspect he will perish at the end of this series, so that John Stewart becomes the main Green Lantern, because that was the standard they were pushing for a Green Lantern film for quite some time. That would be this buddy cop scenario with Hal Jordan and John Stewart. Hal Jordan being the older veteran Green Lantern, mentoring a younger rookie Green Lantern in John Stewart. After it was over, John Stewart would go on to be the main Green Lantern, and for whatever Justice League film they might get to, he'd be their Green Lantern. And of course, there's a lot of precedent to that because of the animated series and all that. So I'm guessing that they're still sticking with that template. It's just now, instead of in outer space, it's going to be Earth-based, and they're using True Detective, which for McConaughey, that makes him probably more the better choice, as he's already played the True Detective role. However, for Ewan, what's the interest for him? Well, he has already played a mentoring character in Star Wars. He mentored Anakin, so now he would be this mentoring Green Lantern for John Stewart in the Lantern series. So, and, well, he did, I don't guess he ever did. I never saw any of the other seasons of True Detective. I only saw the first one, which by all accounts is the best one. I don't know if he did any of them, but he did do a stint on Fargo. And, so, but, he's a fine, solid actor, and should he get the role, he'll probably do all right. It's just a bit of a letdown that I suspect once the series is over, there's no more Hal Jordan. And that's an awful lot of Green Lantern stories that will have to rework for John Stewart and that sort of thing. When John Stewart has his own story that I think is quite compelling, but you'll probably never get to it, which is unfortunate. But anyway, 2 more contenders for Green Lantern. Meanwhile, well, in Elseworlds, Joker, besides Aquaman, there are other billion-dollar films, so the sequel is on its way. Not much else to say. We just got these new posters. There's the happy couple. Oh, boy. Yeah, that's true love there. And, now look how sweet. You know, they both have blood splatter. See, they match. It was meant to be. And there's Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga, and then, of course, Joaquin's Joker, and stuff like that. And then there was this clip from the film where they're getting to know each other in Arkham Asylum. And, oh, it's so sweet. She starts singing a tune, and she's breaking the ice with the Joker. It's, yeah. I hope it's good. Really was impressed with the first film. And even though they talk about musical numbers and all that stuff, in the world of the surrealism of the film, where you're not sure exactly what really happened here, when a lot of it is seen through the viewpoint of the madness of Joker. And then now you've got Harley as well. How much of this will be real, and from whose viewpoint is the film? And the musical numbers would obviously give way to fantasy. So, done right, could be really good. And I hope it is. So we'll see how that turns out. Speaking of smiling, here we have Smile 2. I did like the original Smile. And I realized that, boy, the ending's a real letdown. But, you know, sometimes the good guys don't win when it comes to horror. So, well, it's not the last thing you'll see. You're going to see a lot of smiles before it's over. But here, the odd take on it is they've got this pop star who seems to be copying Lady Gaga, who's busy in the Joker movie. So the actress Naomi Scott plays the Lady Gaga character in this, and so she's this pop star. Friend of hers succumbs to the demon that smiles, and she witnessed it. So if you saw the first movie, you know what that means. So Smile is one of those things where it's probably more than likely better to be one and done. Here there appears to be some attempt at trying to outwit the demon and escape. And wow, how would you do that? Since it, spoiler, didn't work out in the previous one, is the only other story to tell. That's the thing about these things. If you can really come up with an intriguing and good extra take on this, you're really just doing the same thing over again. And of course, most of the film will be the same thing. This poor woman, she doesn't know what's going on. She keeps seeing the grinning faces everywhere, and horrific things occur. And ultimately, it's coming for her. So, and then the only thing different would be, does she have a different way of dealing with it than the previous heroine? Well, it remains to be seen, of course, but odds are it will fall far from the original. But you never know. You know, they might have something clever. But I remain dubious. But, you know, I'm a bit of a sucker, so I'm gonna see Smile 2. Meanwhile, over at the MCU, we got Daredevil on the way. There's not much to say about it other than that, what's this guy's name? Brad Vanderbaum. You're going to want more of a win than a bomb, Brad. But I was basically saying there's going to be a lot of intense action in Daredevil. So he says, I'll tell you, some of the most brutal action we've ever brought to the screen is coming in Daredevil Born Again, which isn't a horror show, but really it packs a lot of power, and there's a lot of visceral action, to say the least. So, and I'm assuming this is an official image. It's kind of badly pixelated here, but from the series. And oh boy, he's already taken a few hits to the nose, huh? So a lot of action in that, and that's fine. I think that's from the old series, but anyway, all these guys are returning. John Bernthal as Punisher will be there. The supporting cast will be there. And, of course, Vincent D'Onofrio will be Kingpin, which is necessary if they're going to have any relation to the original story, which I'm dubious that they will achieve that. There's a lot of elements in there I don't think they're going to do. And obviously the Avengers cannot show up as they did in that story. Yes, that's right. They did show up in the original Born Again story. But the only one of them left from that story would be Thor, and he's barely in it. Captain America was one of the main members who got involved in this. Unless, what are they going to do? They're going to have Falcon come in? I guess they could. But anyway, I hope, I don't expect it to be on par with the Netflix series, but close enough. One could hope, but that's all one can do. And it's really the only thing they got going that might be a bright spot. Unfortunately for them, it's not a movie. It's on DP, and they've bled a lot of subscribers from it. So, but I guess the idea is, hey, you'll sign up again to check this out. So, but other than that, I don't know. Odds are against them. It sure is. Yeah, because the first time we saw him in the MCU, well, the Spider-Man movie, that was nice. Then, you think they'll be reunited? Yeah. And then, of course, in Echo, they let's just forget that ever happened. So anyway, best of luck. Hopefully it's good, but it's going to be a lot of action. So that's nice. Poor Venom. Well, the only Sony Spider-Man movie without any Spider-Man to have any success whatsoever was Venom, and that was mostly the first one. The second one, it started off kind of okay and had some interesting possibilities, and then just pooped the bed. So hey, look, he looks like he's been splattered with Sauron's remains from season 2 of Rings of Power. So anyway, there's another little clip or trailer, a foreign one, I believe, and you get a look at another symbiote, who I guess would be the main bad guy. But that's about it. But Last Dance, they'll have to move on to something else. Sony's attempts at this has been a dismal failure. I don't expect Kraven to develop into anything. I mean, the premise sounds awful. So that's too bad. But then again, the basic average movie-going audience might like it for what it is, having no real knowledge of Kraven, and that can work too. So it's kind of what happened with Venom, So I'm dubious, but maybe it can. It's too bad. The cool thing coming out of the No Way Home was Andrew Garfield, and I said, just make him the Spider-Man of your Sonyverse. And he just agreed to do, opposite years of one another. So there's Spider-Man all the time. Well, I guess it's not possible. So finally, in another comic book universe, all they got is a new poster for the Hellboy movie, which I hope is good. I know it's probably going to be done more on the cheap than the previous outings, and but that can still work. He's got to face the Crooked Man. There he is. It says, "Witness the beginning of all evil." Oh, really? Okay. The fourth installment. Well, it's the fourth Hellboy film, yes, but it has no connection to the other three. The first two were connected. The third one was not. It was terrible. And that one was one that had a lot of money spent on special effects. But they ran out, I guess, because some of it looked unfinished. So anyway, here we go. Another shot at Hellboy, the comics of which I've always liked. A lot of them are really cool. And really, the first two films are the only ones worth watching, which are entities unto themselves. They do depart from the comics a bit here and there, but they functioned fine for what they were, and sometimes that can happen. Hopefully this one can too, and just being on the cheap doesn't necessarily mean it would be a failure. There's ways to do that, and to approach this as a horror movie / investigative drama could work to his advantage. So, don't know much about this actor, but hopefully he can pull it off. So there you go. You're all caught up for your movies of the fantastic. Superheroes and horror. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, have a good weekend.